I was refreshing my IB results page at, 757, 758, 759.
Stared at my screen for a bit, trying to comprehend the fact that I had gotten 45 out of 45.
Utter disbelief.
I didn't know how to react. I was just like, oh my gosh.
As soon as I saw the 7 in Chinese A, I was like, wait, this might actually happen for me.
I still haven't processed it.
And when I saw the words 45 points, I just started bawling. It was a very surreal moment for me. In the future, I hope to be studying dentistry at either the University of Hong Kong or at King's College London.
I'll be studying at the University of Pennsylvania, planning to either major in mathematical economics or English.
Social anthropology at LSE in London. Once the pandemic hit, I sort of started thinking about what makes us as individuals and puts us into groups, and I realized that really the glue of society almost is the culture, like culture binds us. I really wanted to pursue this curiosity of mine, so what better way to do that than to travel to another country abroad to study social anthropology.
English and psychology at the University of British Columbia, and after that I plan to pursue a career in speech therapy.
I want to study medicine. I wanted to find a career that was able to somehow bridge interacting with people and really engaging and understanding people, and combining that with a scientific perspective. I thought medicine was, I guess, really the perfect thing to study.
I'm going on to study linguistics in Canada, and I hope that this degree will help me go on to speech therapy.
I've decided to go to the UK and study chemical engineering in Imperial College.
I'm hoping to study medicine at a local university in Hong Kong.
Chemistry or biochemistry in the University of Toronto. Especially after the pandemic, I realized how important healthcare system is in the world, so I thought that maybe training to biochemistry would be very applicable in the future.
I'm thinking to go to the Chinese University of Hong Kong for medicine.
I'm planning to study chemistry either at the University of Hong Kong or in the United Kingdom. And seeing as we're currently facing a climate crisis, I thought that studying chemistry could really allow me to give back and do research that could benefit the climate crisis and help solve the problems we're facing in the 21st century.
The London School of Economics and Political Science, and I'll be studying data science.
Politics, psychology, law and economics at the University of Amsterdam. So many issues nowadays can't be solved just by drawing from one subject, so I really wanted to continue this interdisciplinary education at university so I can better understand and address the many issues that we face in the 21st century.
Medicine in Hong Kong, although I haven't decided exactly which university I'll be going to, but I'm very excited to start my new journey.
Good evening to everybody. It's so nice to be welcoming students and parents and perhaps even visitors for the first time to this webinar at West Island School. And there's a number of people who are on the webinar this evening. Obviously some students you'll see here, and they'll introduce themselves individually partway for the presentation if you want to give a wave, students. And thank you to them in advance for what they'll be talking to you about on their journeys. We've got Mr. Tim Collins, who is our IB Careers Programme Coordinator, and he'll be sharing the details of the IBCP with you. We've got Mrs. Devine-Costa, and Helen is my Vice Principal, who oversees responsibility for post-16 learning. And we also have Clare Haworth, who many of you will already know, who connects with you for pre-16 learning journey. And of course, last but not least is Jayne. Jayne Cunliffe here this evening as head of year, and she's kind of the continuity that will see your children through the journey as you make your choices at West Island School. I'd like to thank you for the many questions which arrived, and part of the presentation has been built to address those questions. And you'll also see a Q&A box down below, and unbelievably, I can't believe it would be your first time on Zoom, but it might be. But if you, where I'm pointing down below, it says Q&A. You are very welcome to put a question into that box, but I would suggest that you wait for about half an hour before doing so, because you'll find that an awful lot of what you sent to us is going to be answered. But if you do put a question in that box, then Claire and Jayne will be working in the background to try and answer that for you. And I know at the end, Helen will come on live and also answer live for you as well. So I'm just going to invite the rest of the participant panel to mute your screens. And I'm just going to open the presentation with a small apology from me. And my apology from me is that I can only be on this very start of this call this evening because I do have another meeting to go on to. It's not as interesting as this one. And also I really miss talking about how proud we are of the school and also the opportunities that are provided to learners at West Island here. So welcome, really warm welcome to this Pathways webinar. And why it's important to us is because we know that we have a number of ways in which students can achieve their personal best. And that's really what matters to us. Each individual child gets to achieve their personal best. And we've just been having a look at the results this year from our students. And we were looking at it for the past 3 or 4 years, and this year we got the second best set of results the school's ever had, whether that's for the diploma programme or for the careers programme or indeed for our own national diploma programme. They're exceptional results, and whilst I feel very sad that COVID has disrupted a lot of people's lives and we have lost some things as a result of the way we've worked, what is true to say is our students have sustained and improved against the world average as a result of the way in which we have kept learning going. And that's just such a powerful statement to make with everything that we've gone through in Hong Kong. So the mean, if you just go back a bit for me, the mean IB point score, 38.2. We're talking about the entry point for stepping into an Oxford or Cambridge style education. And that's the mean average that our students are getting. 47, nearly half of our cohort in the diploma programme received 40 plus points. I can't think of a single university that will be turning their head away from the students coming through with those points. 6% achieved the bilingual diploma. That means they were taking 2 languages as their first language, which is extraordinary. 95% of students achieved either a D-star or a distinction for their BTEC qualifications. And we are now considered to be in the top 1% of all IB schools worldwide because of the progress our students make. Tremendous success, really, really well done. And where that comes from is it comes from making sure we have a real breadth of choice for our students. It also comes from the expertise of our teachers who have been with us for a number of years, knowing what to do to make sure students are on the right combination of courses for them individually as learners. And we take great pride as teachers in knowing our learners to the best of our ability. We also have something called a most competitive pathway. And I often get asked a question from parents, what's the best university, Mr. Sammons? And genuinely, as a parent and as an educator, my answer to that is, it's the university you want to go to. Now, for some people, that will be a small community college in America that doesn't have a high profile globally and people have never heard of, but it provides you with the environment and the course that's just right for you. For some people, it will be going to MIT and studying with the leading world academics ahead of their research, because that's what's right for you. And the most competitive pathway programme recognises that a large number of our students do want to reach to work with the leading academics in the universities of choice throughout the world. And we have a dedicated higher education team of 3, and we also have 2 teachers who work to support students to make sure the personal statements and the wider experiences beyond the curriculum and the academics are really well accounted for when a student makes that application. And of course, if you've been with us on the journey so far, you will know we really care. We really care. It's not only important for us that children achieve their personal best with their academic results, it's that they grow as human beings. And we call that a holistic approach to learning, where there's after-school activities, where there's an engagement in critical thinking, where young people are supported with their passions and interests, which may not be measured by an examination metric, where they get to throw themselves into some leadership. Or also it might be how we can support young people with the challenges that they go through as they progress through adolescence. And that's what makes a West Island school post-16 education really, really valuable. Thank you, Helen. And so Helen's going to just move the programme on for me. There we go. The thing that is true in our community is that our young people don't just think about themselves, they think about others. They consider diversity, not just in a kind of a surface level way, but authentically in terms of what it means to work alongside people of other cultures. We have 38 different cultures in our student body. What does that mean to see the world through somebody else's value system, which comes from family and cultural values? And how do you come to a way of working with somebody that might have a different perspective? And what can you learn as a result of that? So the deep resource within our community is that diversity. If you've been with us this far, you know that the way we care for ourselves extends to the way we care for the local and the global community. And that's really important to me as a human being and as a principal, is that our learners leave us as kind, compassionate people. They will speak multiple languages and they will most definitely be leaders of the future. Each one of our students, your children, are unique. That's exactly how they should be treated. I need to share with parents that my daughter and my son are very different learners. One of my children went through a curriculum that might be termed a more formal end of year assessment program. My son undertook a program where he was continually assessed with his learning. What mattered to me was not what they were doing. What mattered to me was how they were feeling about their learning. So the accomplishments they were getting, the progress, the deep-seated satisfaction and personal value they were getting out of the things they were interested in. And I can tell you, as a result now, even though they've taken different pathways through their learning, they both are fully functioning, almost fully self-funding members of society. And I'm so deeply proud of them. And that's what I want our school to give to your children too, because your children are unique. Now, the global citizenship is the thing not to overlook at the school, because it works on so many levels. And this is a thing that people stay in international education for, and this is why people want an international education, because being a global citizen is about all of our world futures. It's about working in global companies. It's about working for global causes. It's about leading global change. It's about recognizing global challenges. And it's about bringing yourself fully to that in the wide variety of experiences that people can have beyond the classroom. So, Ms. Devine-Costa, I think this is the moment where I very, very sadly have to sign off for the evening, but I know everybody's in good hands with you and I wish everybody well. And the most important thing to say to parents is that you will get to come into the building very shortly. We're working on that. And of course, pick up the phone, email, ask us any questions we can to help you on your journey. I hope you have a really good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sammons. So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start taking you through some of the different pathways that we have on offer. We spoke to Year 11 students last week, so they've heard a version of this presentation. And really our aim this evening is just to let you kind of get your head around the different options that are out there. We've got plenty of time to look at the nuts and bolts of things. The students don't have to make their choices until towards the end of November. So we're starting the process early, deliberately, so that you've got time to kind of ask questions and have a good think, and the students have got time to speak to teachers about everything they want to know about. So the courses that we're going to start with are our IB certificated courses. And you can see from the diagram on the left there, one route to university is to take the IB diploma programme. And I'll talk about that first. And another IB route through is to take the IB career related programme. And Mr. Collins is going to talk about that a little bit later on. And you'll see really the difference is for the IB diploma, it's only IB courses that make up the qualification. Whereas with the IB career related programme, it's a combination of IB courses and then the BTEC, which is what we use as our career related, more vocational style of programme. So if we look at the IB diploma first, there are 6 subject groups with the IB diploma, and the expectation is that students take 1 subject in every group. That's the kind of traditional IB format. The idea being that you are developing a range of different skills and ways of learning and ways of thinking in all of those different subject disciplines. So 1 subject from each discipline, plus a core, compulsory core of theory of knowledge, which is a taught course, and it's examined by an essay and an exhibition, where students have to really look at how we learn and the different ways in which we learn, where our information comes from, the validity of that information, so that we can really start to kind of critically evaluate the sources that we're using in our different subject areas. Along with that, students do a 4,000 word independent research project, which is called the extended essay. They choose the topic, they set their own title, and they go away and research. It's a miniature dissertation, if you like, and it's great practice for the kind of work they'll be expected to do at university. And then in the middle of the IB programme is CAS, which we're all very familiar with at West Island. That's a compulsory component, so students have to complete CAS in order to attain the IB diploma at the end of it. So if we just break it down a little bit, you can see we're very, very lucky. We've got a lot of different subject choices, 40 different subject choices at IB, and students will take 1 from each of the groups. So in the literature block, students can choose English, literature or language and literature, or they can do Chinese, language and literature. Or if they have another first language, so we have, for example, Korean students, German students, French students who can work academically in that first language and write essays and interpret literary texts in that first language, then they can opt to actually have that as one of their literature subjects as well. Students are then expected to do a second language, a language that they are learning. So we offer Chinese, French and Spanish, and that can be done at absolute beginner level, which is known as ab initio. So a language they've not studied before, they can pick up a new language, or they can carry on studying an existing language. For the humanities, we've got a whole range of subjects to choose from. One question that came in was about, should you be doing the same subject that you've done at GCSE? It's not necessary to carry on with the same subject. We do have students wanting to pick up something new like philosophy, or sometimes something new like the psychology that they've not done at GCSE. Obviously, it's easier if you've already got that base foundation of knowledge. But in theory, any subject is accessible at standard level, whether you've done it before or not. But I would recommend talking to teachers about that and about those choices, because they'll be able to guide you. In the sciences, again, a huge range of sciences, and not just the traditional sciences that we tend to think about, biology, chemistry, physics, that we all did at school. We also have environmental studies, computer science, design tech, sports science, and a brand new subject that we're offering, food science and technology as well. And I know Mr. C is talking to his current cohort of year 11s about that one. Again, if you're interested in doing that as a science, you don't have to have done it at GCSE to take it. So definitely go along and find out a bit more about that one. The maths, there are 2 courses and 2 different options. One is slightly more statistics based. The other one is a little bit more pure maths based. And then the arts block, we have, again, a really wide range of arts on offer, probably one of the widest ranges of any IB school in Hong Kong. So we're super, super lucky to have such a great arts programme. As a year group, you're very lucky because your head of year is part of that arts team, so is really well placed to offer some advice on those different arts subjects as well. But lots and lots of great offerings to choose from. Just to give you a little example of, you know, how it might stack up when you pick subjects for your IB diploma, you have to do something from each discipline, and you have to do 3 of them at a higher level and 3 of them at a standard level. Generally, the higher levels should be the subjects you enjoy the most, because they're the ones that you're then going to enjoy working on. And those are really the subjects that are going to feed into your university applications ultimately. It doesn't matter if you don't exactly know what you want to do at university, but equally, if you're thinking about doing a very specific career and you know you want to go and do economics, then certain universities will have some specific requirements, and HL economics and maths at higher level would be an example of what they would require. So you do need to think a little bit about what the high levels might look like. So you can see on here, and we're going to hear from Namir and Matisse in a little moment, but you can see the different subjects that they have got. I'm just trying to move my mouse without destroying the display. Michelle's got a classic IB program there. So she's got something from every single group, one from each of the 6 groups. Namir has got a slightly different program in that he has got I think 2 INS subjects. Yeah, I'm just moving my screen around. Whereas Matisse has ended up with 2 science subjects. So for the 2 gentlemen, and we'll hear why they've ended up doing that in a minute, it is possible sometimes to not take an art subject, but we would be looking at what students wanted to do at university, and also at how strong they are in that particular subject area. So if, like Namir, you're very strong in the humanities, and at GCSE you're getting excellent grades, you know, you're getting A's in your humanities at GCSE, it might be possible to double up. Similarly, in the sciences, if you're getting very strong grades. If you're not, then I will not be recommending and not allowing you to double up, because actually it's not going to work in terms of overall point scores at the end. So there's some flexibility, and we take it on a little bit of a case-by-case basis. Just before I bring the gentleman in, just want to show you this one just so you can see how it might look and a timetable. So every higher level subject has 5 lessons a cycle, and every standard level subject has 4. And there are also 2 lessons of TOK, plus then your kind of usual PE lessons and your tutor time and things like that. So it's a very, very, very busy program. You don't get very many study periods. Your time is very, very sort of taken up by those diploma subjects. So at that point, Namir and Matisse, can you just jump on for now, and I will just get rid of this screen for a second. Oops, stop share. There we go. Hi, do you want to just both unmute yourselves as well? There we are. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about the courses that you chose to do and why it was you opted to do those particular courses at IBDP? Namir, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'll start with why I did business and politics, because I think we mentioned that that's not something you can do 100% of the time. I like Miss Devine-Costa mentioned, I'm quite interested in humanities, and I know it's what I want to do in the future. And I knew I wanted to go to a specific university when I was choosing my courses, that and in a program that was business in a global politics school. So I was able to get to humanities because I specifically needed to study those two courses. So that's what allowed me to study business, which I did in GCSE, and politics, which I have an interest in because I do model United Nations at school. So I knew I had some basis in it. And then I chose environmental systems and societies as my science because I was most interested in biology in GCSE, and it's the subject I found the most interesting of the three sciences. But I knew that science, as I'm applying to the US, my science wasn't the most important subject for me. So I figured that ESS might be a better option because it's a bit more varied, and it's also considered a humanity, which is something I'm a little bit stronger in, which is something that people may not know, but ESS incorporates a bit of like humanities, like geography and economics. So it has a little bit of my strengths in it. And then maths, I chose the AI course and application and interpretations because it involves a lot of statistics and a lot of use of your calculator to apply to real world situations like finance and stuff, which is where I find my strong suits are because I do business and economics and stuff. I knew that I had a stronger basis in statistics and finance and calculator work. And then lastly, I chose I chose English language and literature as my higher level because again, writing I find to be kind of my strong suit, and interpreting and analyzing case studies and books and different articles is what I find that I can do strongly at. But I chose language and literature and not just the literature course because language and literature incorporates a lot of real world stuff like magazine articles and blog posts, and you read a lot of modern texts, and you incorporate stuff like modern poetry and speeches from like Malcolm X, for example. And I find that to be a lot more interesting for me because I'm not necessarily like someone who reads a lot of classic books, but I do read like the news, I read the newspaper, and I listen to stories, stuff like that. So I knew that that would be where my interest was, like a more modern and varied English study. And then I chose Chinese standard level because I took Chinese foreign language in GCSE, and I knew I wanted to continue that because I live in Hong Kong and I want to keep learning Chinese, but I'm not strong enough as a foreign language student to take like Chinese A, which is for slightly stronger students, or a standard level. So that's why I chose my subject.
That's great. Thank you. I think repeatedly the message was coming through there was playing to your strengths. You really have thought about what your strengths are and done some really good research as well about what the next step beyond this might be to try and dovetail it all in, which is a really good example. Matthias, how about you? How did you decide on your subject choice?
So when I was deciding, I was knowing I was wanting to do something either somewhat sports science related or something somewhat engineering related. So that's why I've chosen my HLs, because I'm going to be applying to Canada, and for sports science they want a sports science course and one of the core sciences, and for engineering they want physics and maths. So physics tackles both of those. And I'm taking them both at a higher level because I'm much stronger at the sciences than like humanities and English. So I'm taking higher level physics, sports science, and then maths, applications and interpretations, because that somewhat takes the load off of me, because typically maths AA analysis, maths AA is typically harder, but it varies from person to person. Like maths AI has more content, but maths AA has typically harder content, especially at a higher level. So for my standard levels, I chose global politics, English language and literature, and Spanish ab initio. So initially I was doing higher level global politics and standard level sports science. And then I realized I was stronger at sports science and less stronger at politics. So I decided to switch the two. And I've definitely enjoyed doing that. And initially I was torn between politics and business, which one I wanted to do, because I did econ at GCSEs and I wasn't very strong at that. But I didn't want to go into business at IB with a disadvantage because people have done business in the past. But I think that's a really bad mindset to have, because there are other people from different countries who have never taken business before, which I didn't really take into account, who are also starting from scratch. So you shouldn't have that mindset of being scared to take a course from scratch, even if people have done it in GCSEs. With English language and literature at SL, so it's a bit like Namir. He's stronger English, so yeah, he's decided to take it at HL. I've decided to take it at SL, but I wanted to do language and literature because for me, I'm not a big fan of like reading long texts. I'd much prefer analyzing like poems and like magazine articles, which is seen a lot more in language and literature. Like you should be reading, but if you're not a fan of reading a lot, you should take language and literature.
I love that.
And for Spanish ab initio, I was taking French at GCSEs, and I was doing all right at it, but I kind of wanted a fresh start and I wanted to know basics of two different foreign languages. So I think Spanish ab initio is a good way to do that. It is typically seen as the easier course, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily true, because it's basically like learning GCSE Spanish, but within 2 years instead of over like 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because you've got to get to a really good level in ab initio really quite quickly, haven't you? It kind of accelerates through, I think. Yeah, and I really like that message about, don't be afraid to take something new. But again, what was really coming through listening to you, Matisse, was that you'd really, again, researched, but thought about not just what you were good at, but what learning styles suited you. And you were trying to pick courses that played to those learning styles. And I think that's a super important message as well, if people are going to be successful on the different options that they pick. What do you think maybe some of the challenges are when you start the IB diploma program, sort of coming from year 11 and then moving in? Matisse, what would you say?
I'd definitely say the workload is a lot more. Like, it's still manageable, but it's a big step up. You need to like get on your stuff and know what you're doing. You have to be super organized, and you have to be like doing all your homework on time. And when it gets to like term 2 and 3, that's when there's a big step up, because you're starting to do more coursework and there's going to be deadlines for each subject, including TOK. So you might have up to 7 deadlines. You wouldn't probably have 7 deadlines at one point, but you're going to have a lot of deadlines.
Yeah, and someone had written in a question about, can the workload be made easier? And I'm really sorry to say that it just cannot. The demands are there, and I've worked in a lot of different IB schools now, and that message of you've just got to be super organized, and you will have multiple things going on at the same time. So again, that's something to bear in mind when you're choosing your pathway, is that a style of learning that lends itself to you? Because it is going to be the skill set that you need to kind of get through and succeed. Namir, what about the best bits? What would you say the best bits of doing the DP are?
I think for me, the best bit is kind of just how varied it is. And even if, like me, I don't do an art, I still get that breadth. I really feel like you learn a lot of different stuff, which is something that's a little bit unique to the IB. Even it's a little bit unique to the IB diploma, because the IBCP is a little bit different in how varied it is. So it's great for someone like me who's applying to the US, and when I initially started, I knew I wanted to do humanities, but I wasn't sure if that was going to stay that way or what I was going to do. So if it's really good, I think, for people who are still learning, which is obviously okay. You're only like yeah, you're only 16 when you enter, so not everyone knows what they're gonna do. So it's really great if you're not sure what you want to do and you want to try different options.
That's great. That's brilliant advice. Me and Mrs. Haworth both nodding here because we just really agree. So what do you want to do in the future? I think we've touched on it. Matisse, have you decided roughly where you're applying to yet, or is that still in the mix?
Yeah, so I'm only applying to Canada because I've got a Canadian passport, so that means I'm a resident and pay resident fees. So yeah, it's just a lot cheaper. And I've been to Canada to look at the universities back when my sister was applying, so about 4 years ago, and I really enjoyed the campuses. So we visited British Columbia, Toronto, and McGill, and my favorite one was definitely British Columbia, and it was also like right up next to Whistler. So if you enjoy skiing and snowboarding, that's a good uni to go to.
Perfect.
And I'm wanting to, well, initially I was fairly set on engineering, and then during this summer I did an internship at a civil engineering firm, and it wasn't as fun as I was imagining. So I'd definitely recommend in the future, like within the next year or two, if you know what you want to do, I'd recommend doing an internship at it so you get the gist of it. Yeah, so now I'm keeping my options open and possibly thinking of doing sports science as well.
Okay, great, thank you. And Namir, what about you? Do you know where we're heading?
Yeah, so like Matisse, I'm only applying to one country, but I'm applying to the US, mostly because my whole family went to the US. I have a lot of family in the US, and my brother goes to Georgetown University in Washington, DC. So I think I naturally felt like I had to go there, but I just knew I was more comfortable in the US and I've spent more time in the US. So I'm going to be applying to in West Island, or in university application, you kind of break down, like you have some schools that are like your reaches and some schools that are like you feel a bit more comfortable that you have a good chance of getting in or you could get in. So I'm going to be applying to, like, some of my top schools are going to be Cornell University, because I want to try and apply to an Ivy League. I know it's not easy, but I want to give it my best shot. And Georgetown, because my brother went there and it's one of the best schools for politics. And then I will additionally the University of Southern California, because I like that it's a little bit more of an open school. It's a little bit less a little bit less rigorous, but still has a very high still very high education. And lastly, Boston University are kind of my top four. Yeah.
Sound perfect. I'd love to be at any of those, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they're all amazing.
So listen, both of you, thank you so much. You've been brilliant. If you can just hang around just in case we need you for any questions at the end, that would be great. But if you want to just turn your cameras off for now, and I'm just gonna screen share again. So that's our IB diploma program, and I think honestly the gentlemen have given us probably the best account that we could have had, if I'm totally honest. And some really good advice there about really thinking about what your strengths are, what you enjoy, a little bit about what you want to do in the future, and keeping some options open, and thinking about what style of learning suits you, because it's not the same in every IB DP subject either. So you do need to drill down and find out a little bit more. So the next program we have is the career related program, and I'm going to hand over the baton to Mr. Collins for this bit.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be able to talk to you about the IB career-related programme that we offer at West Island School. For a bit of context, I'm sure you wouldn't be aware that previously to working here at WIS, I was based at a school in London, which was one of the first schools in the whole of the United Kingdom to actually bring this IB career-related programme out. So it's something which I felt privileged to have been a part of, and I've seen it grow from its very kind of early steps as becoming recognised to what it is now and what it continues to be. So I am an unashamedly proud and cheerleader for the IB career-related program, as I'm sure the Year 11s who've spoken to me about it already can testify. How does it differ from the diploma program? I think it's the most typical question and the first one that comes to mind, obviously. So it's based slightly different because obviously the big phrase there is career-related. And this is about giving students the opportunity to undertake subjects which isn't necessarily going to be the end goal in their career. I think that's a massive question to be asking a Year 11, but it's about trying to maybe fine tune it in terms of subjects which they've really shown an interest in, a passion for, and what they believe is something that they can see themselves carrying on within the future. So with that in mind, we're a BTEC school, so we work with Pearson's, the UK company, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. It's part of the largest awarding body in the whole of the United Kingdom, and they certificate around 1 million learners a year on courses. So BTEC is a hugely popular pathway for young people, and I just think it's great that we're able to bring this to our students here. And the structure is slightly different in the sense that the main core of first will be choosing a BTEC subject. At the moment, we've got a creative digital media strand at the top there. We're offering business studies, which is hugely popular, sports, engineering, and we also work with some external providers as well. It's worth noting, as it's been quite a common question from some of the students, will we have different options available? The answer in a quick response to that is that it does depend on expressions of interest from the students. If we see that a course looks viable and we have enough interest in it, then we'll absolutely endeavour to be able to provide that to the students. A lot of people ask as well, how does a BTEC compare in terms of what does it mean for universities? So a BTEC, a single award, a subsidiary diploma as it would be called, is the equivalent of 1 UK A-level. A diploma is the equivalent of 2 full A-levels, and an extended diploma is the equivalent of 3. So our IBCP learners will be doing a diploma, which is the equivalent of 2 A-levels, and it carries the same amount of UCAS points. So the maximum grade which you can achieve on the course would be a distinction star, a double distinction star. As mentioned by Mr. Sammons earlier, the results were absolutely incredible, and that carries the same amount of UCAS points as 2 grade A stars at A level. So I think that's a pretty common question which people ask. So that tends to put people's minds at ease, knowing that we have this instant equivalency to a typical UK level. Now, what makes this qualification really unique in my mind is that alongside being able to use a vocational area of study, students have the opportunity to choose 2 or 3 IB subjects. And these can come from any discipline. And for me, this is where I believe that this program really comes into its own, because we can have students having a main area of focus with the BTEC course, and then they've got the option to dip in and out of the IB, take on some really unique courses from the amazing selection that we have that Mr. Devine-Costa spoke about earlier. So typically we would look for students to undertake 2 of these subjects at higher level, and it could be 1 at standard. And we work with the students to make sure that they have a really good combination of not necessarily subjects that kind of fit together and that work for them in terms of creating what I think is the most personalised curriculum available here. And by that, I mean across the whole of Hong Kong. I think it's fantastic that students are able to have essentially what, in my mind, is the best of both worlds when it comes to a qualification. There's a core, much like on the IB. Students undertake a topic called personal and professional skills. You can probably work that one out from the title. It encompasses units where students do things like they look at self-reflection, they look at career objectives, they do things like CV building, they think about how job application processes work, as well as kind of taking a bit more sort of hands-on tasks with their area of study. This is combined with the usual service learning program and a reflective project, which again, the students would undertake a project which is linked to their main area of study. And it's essentially an evaluative essay where they undertake a research assignment. And finally, language development, which is an unassessed course where the students are encouraged to develop language skills. And this is done through a series of kind of mini tasks, and students monitoring their own learning. So you might walk into the library and see a student with Duolingo on their phone, trying to speak Swedish or something. I've seen some languages I think that I didn't even know existed before language development started, and the students tend to really enjoy that. So that is the main crux of the course. In terms of some typical pathways for students, delighted to say we're joined by Jade and Freya, so I will let them talk more about their subjects. You can see there Tom, who was a student with us last year, who undertook an engineering diploma and combines that with physics at higher level, maths at higher level, and design and technology at higher level. So I think you can see the kind of profile which that would give a learner. But I said, we'll get to Jade and Freya later on. They can tell you about their courses. So a typical timetable in terms of what does a student's, what does a week at WIS look like for a student? Typically, you'd be looking at 10 lessons on their BTEC diploma course. The higher level subjects come in at 5 lessons per cycle, and then it's 1 lesson standard. And then they'd also take on a combination of 3 lesson slots for PPS course and language development. Something which we have that's a lot of work has gone into, especially in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, is that we've managed to build a selection of partnerships through ESF, which I think it's fair to say is the advantage of staying with and joining an organisation such as ESF, is that we have these incredible working relationships which enable our students on both our IB career programme and our international diploma courses to access some really unique and exciting opportunities outside of our classrooms, working with some external providers. So we've got the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, who offer a course in musical theatre, which is also BTEC, which Freya is currently undertaking. We also have the Hong Kong and Tourism Institute, which is, or the ICI, where they do culinary arts and hospitality. I'm not sure if any of you have seen that building. It's in Pok Fu Lam. It's not too far from the school. It's a bit of a strange route to get there. I was lucky enough to go there on a visit last week, and it is absolutely spectacular. It's a really amazing building. They have a mini hotel there that their students learn in about the hospitality role. They have more kitchens than I've ever seen in my life. And I think my only regret was that the students were currently doing classroom-based stuff and not baking cakes when I went round to visit. So I think that'll be my next task. And we've also got Ella, who's joining us, is undertaking that course there. We've also got a partnership with BSD, which is a digital skills course, which looks at things like data visualization, digital marketing, and design. So these are all face-to-face courses which we build into the students' timetable. Typically, these lessons take place after school hours, and the students are given a bit of flexibility in terms of their time to make sure that they're able to attend these sessions and that they get the support they need. We also have a number of online partnerships as well. So again, these are world-leading institutions. You've got SUMAS, which is in Switzerland, which offers a sustainability and management school. We've got SCAD, which is, I don't fit name here, but it's I can't remember, sorry, but it's an American-based School of Art and Design. I've just forgotten what the C stands for. We have the Australian Guild of Music, who offer music courses. We have Sport Management, which runs through an institution based in Australia, which is affiliated with the University of Australia. And we also have Embry-Riddle, which is an American company who are the leaders in aeronautics and aviation maintenance. So if you have any students there who are, budding engineers, budding designers, even potentially looking at a career kind of in the cockpit, if you're not building it, flying the plane, then this is an incredible company to get involved with. And students can undertake an online course where they take modules of assessment, and that can lead straight into acceptance to their university. They have a big campus based in Florida, and I think they have presence in Europe as well. So these are really exciting opportunities for students in terms of being able to expand on their curriculum offer. So really good companies there. Where is BTEC accepted? Obviously, BTEC with Pearson and EdExcel, who's the exam board behind it. The UK is the main I would say, destination of choice. If we're completely honest, it's 95% of UK universities. To be honest with you, I think if you're doing your BTEC IBCP course in business studies, you might not be going to Oxbridge to undertake medicine, but if that was the case, I don't think we would have let you pick a BTEC course for the IBCP. I think we'd be trying to get you to study your sciences a bit more. So it's had a kind of watershed moment, I suppose, in 2015 when the Russell Group recognised the qualifications and recognised BTECs. Again, proud to say I've taught students that have gone on to Russell Group universities off the strength of their BTEC grades alone, and with the added bonus of their IB career program with them, the IB subjects. It's great for fantastic university applications and sent students onto King's and UCL. And that's something which I've seen across the past year that I've been involved with the BTEC here at West Island School, and also across ESF as a foundation when I speak to the other coordinators from the other schools which are offering the IBCP here that have sent students on to not only Russell Group universities in the UK, but also top institutions globally which are recognising it. So there can be a bit more legwork involved when it comes to the application process. And some universities tend to look at it more on a case-by-case basis. But we've found, due to not only the IB subjects and the grading from the BTEC with the excellent results we get, that frankly, the learners have such a strong profile that the universities really want to get the students in. So the US, Canada, Australia, and Europe, we've seen students go on to all of these places, studying things like applied sciences over in the Netherlands. Students have gone there, over to Victoria in Australia, and San Francisco, Arizona, New Mexico, plenty of institutions who accepted students of this course and recognized BTEC as a qualification. And I think really that's the strength of its profile within the United Kingdom, that the United Kingdom is viewed as a leading institution for education at post-16. And ultimately that's been reflected in the success and the growth of the IB career program. So if there's any, I suppose, worries or doubts about how will this be accepted, because I've heard of A-levels, I've heard of the diploma program, I'm not too familiar with the career program, I can say you do not need to worry. It's about finding the right fit for the student first and foremost, and it is a program which enables plenty of choice. So we can see there different pathways. Now we also have a pathway called the International Diploma, which I think is unique to West Island School. And this is a slightly different way of structuring it, where we can see perhaps going a bit more, in one sense, going a bit more specialist with an engineering pathway, which Mr. Devine-Costa will speak to. But in another sense, it's providing students with an opportunity to take on more BTEC qualifications than just the traditional diploma route across the career program. So in terms of the structure of the International Diploma, as you can see there will be a double, essentially, or a major, as we would call it, in the BTEC. So that's our equivalency of 2 A-levels in UK sort of translation. And they would also pick up an additional subject. So the students would be studying a combined total of, kind of comes out as 3 BTECs, if that makes sense. You've got the double in one and a single in offer. So this is a really great opportunity for students who have got multiple interests, have got an interest in maybe engineering, but they think, you know what, I kind of want to combine that with maybe business. It might be a student who, we've had students in Freya's year 13 doing performing arts, who's keen on that side of things and, can explore that whilst keeping touch with something else that's of an interest. Business and sport is a really popular combination. We've seen our new sort of digital media courses start this year, which has been very exciting as well for the students to take on these subjects for the first time. And they seem to be really enjoying that kind of digital course content, and quite a good course for the future there. And again, we offer the option for students of taking on IB subjects. So if there's a particular subject that a student wants to study, right now we have a student who's just started with us in year 12 who's doing business and sport and has combined that with higher level English, because that's a subject that's got a passion to it. Another student may come in and work with one of our external providers, which is what Ella's doing, and she can tell us a little bit about that. You also encourage the students to undertake something that's called the EPQ, which is an extended project qualification. Again, it's recognised through Pearson with edXcel, so it's just a nice little top up almost for the students' learning. And again, talking about creating a holistic program of study for the learners, and that's something which I think we're really proud of with what we do. Yeah, so as I said, I think you can tell I'm a big believer in these options for our students. And again, you can see here some typical students which have undertaken their routes. Some students from last year, interesting to see the destinations that they've come on from. So Ryan, business diploma, sub-diploma in engineering, and extended project qualification, and is now at Loughborough University in the United Kingdom. Absolutely fantastic place of study, excellent reputation, very well resourced university. Rusha, who's performing arts and did sports, and again, the EPQ, and is now studying education at the University of Leeds. So you never know, in a few years' time, if you have any younger siblings in the family, we may have a former student delivering a speech to you about the power of BTEC in learning. And Ella we'll hear from in a bit, and you can also see a profile there of Kaz, who's undertaking, again, business, sports science. So a really nice combination. A typical timetable on the international diploma, and then we can start interrogating our students, which I know you'd like to hear from them. Again, your BTEC subjects, looking at around 15 lessons on a cycle there across the diploma and the sub-diploma. And of course, it builds in terms of the number of IB subjects which are studied. 2 sessions per week would be given over to the extended project once that's started as well. So if I can invite Jade and Freya and Ella onto the screen. Here we go, the interrogation begins. We will start off, if you could just tell us a bit about your subjects and then why you chose them. So how did you end up on the course? Do you want to start us off, Jade, and then we'll go from there?
Okay, so the subjects that I do are English, Language SL, Chinese BSL, and Sports Science higher level. So, and also for my BTEC, I chose business. So the reason I chose business is because I'm really interested in the subject, and also I prefer doing it more like coursework based, like completing assignments and all that. And for my IB subjects, I do I take English because English at standard level, because I'm not the strongest in English, but I do want to continue like learning more about language and literature. And it's also a requirement for the universities that I want to apply for, so I chose that. For Chinese, I chose it at standard level because I want to keep it up. I've been learning Chinese for a long time, so hopefully I'll be able to speak it fluently in the future. And I chose sports science at high level because I really enjoy sport, and I do want to learn more about like the biomechanics, the psychology behind sports science. So yeah, it's a great combination, and it's like a bit of a mix.
Yeah, it's absolutely everything, isn't it? There, it's such varied choice and options you've gone for, and what a great profile you can be leaving us with. Freya, do you want to tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I do a major in performing arts and also a minor in performing arts, but performing to an audience. I do high-level theatre and then high-level English, language and literature, and then I do standard-level environmental studies. And I picked the IBCP route as it offered the performing arts career path, and that's the industry that I want to go into. So I do my minor at school, and then I do my major after school at the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts up in Pok Fu Lam at their Bethune campus. And I found I really enjoyed doing English and theatre, so I decided to just take those as my HL subjects, especially going down the performing arts route. I knew that theatre was an important subject to take. And then I took environmental systems and society just because I've always quite enjoyed science, and I thought that it would be a fun subject to take as well. And then with the IBCP, obviously you take language acquisition. So I picked the language of French because I did that for GCSE. And then you also do personal professional skills where you learn life skills, like prepping for uni and budgeting and all of those things.
Great, fantastic, and I'm sure we can look forward to seeing you on the stage or the big screen in the future. So Ella, you're on our ID course. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what made you end up choosing your options?
So I do business BTEC and hospitality outside of school as my sub BTEC. I also do 2 SL IB subjects, so I do ESS and Spanish ab initio. I knew from GCSE that I had a lot of interest in hospitality and business, so I was really wanting to focus on that. And ESS in Spanish was something that I hadn't done before, so I wanted to try something new and like see what the school had to offer.
That's great, and I think, you know, as Ella mentioned there, trying something new. I think we can often follow a route from the choices the students made at the end of year 8 and be, well, that's what you do now. That's you for the next 5 years. And I think it is important to react to that ability to change and not be afraid to take something new on. What would I would say be something like, what have you enjoyed about your course of study? What's been some highlights? And, you know, maybe what would your message be to a current year 11 who's sitting on the fence, DP, CP, ID? And that'd be great to hear. Who wants to start us off this time? Come on, Freya.
I really enjoy the different people that I got to meet at my performing arts course at APA. I found that if I didn't go down the IBCP route, I never would have come into contact with those types of people. And I really felt as though it broadened my horizon to what I wanted to do in the future.
Great. And Ella, you're obviously at an external institution as well. Can you tell us something that you've enjoyed about your course?
I've liked the fact that it's something different from the way West Island teaches. It's very practical learning, like you're doing a lot of experience related stuff, like we're cooking a lot and we're doing a lot of stuff to relate to making beds and stuff like that, which is really interesting, especially if you're wanting to focus on hospitality. I also like that it's a mix between coursework and exam subjects. So it's like, it takes a lot of stress off of you when it comes to that time when exams are on, you know that at least you've done the coursework and that's been completed.
Thanks, Ella. And that's a really good point, and perhaps one I should have mentioned, especially if we had a question earlier about the workload. Every subject has workload demands, you know, it's a fact of life. However, with the BTEC courses, this is all coursework based, and that is a massive advantage for some learners. I think personally, with the challenges that came with online learning, perhaps students spending more time at home, maybe for some people they've seen that there is different ways of learning, and you know, end of term, end of unit assessments, sat in the exam hall for 2 hours isn't the be all and end all when it comes to really creating an evaluation of a young person's learning and the progression they've made. And with the BTEC courses, and as Ella said, with the way her course is assessed over at the ICI and Freya's course at the HKAPA, with the advantage of having such a large volume of coursework, it really gives students the opportunity to, I wouldn't say not just absolute work to their maximum potential. There's a whole set of rules and requirements with BTEC, which I won't bore you with, but something the students often find reassuring is that it's genuinely a course that is geared towards student success. The students hand in a piece of coursework, they're given the opportunity to meet with the teacher and discuss it, and then they're given an opportunity to go away and improve their work as well. So it really is something that's designed to try and maximize the learning kind of experience, but also their potential in the subject. Jade, could you just tell us a little bit about, you know, what you've enjoyed about the CP, and if you had any advice to give to a year 11 who's maybe considering it, what would you say to them?
So my favorite thing about the CP is that you can do like exam-based subjects such as the IB subjects, and also do a BTEC diploma for business. So I just like the combination of like doing coursework and doing something different over an IB. And advice I'd give to year 11s is that you just need to stay on top of your work, don't leave it behind, because for BTEC there are like a lot of assignments that you have to complete. It's like back-to-back assignments basically, so you just really need to keep up and stay positive.
I think that's always good advice, and your BTEC teachers will be happy to know you've encouraged the staying on top of the assignments thing. So last question, because I appreciate it's getting late. What's next? What are you planning on? What are we thinking? You know, you've got the results in your hand. Where are you hoping to be in September of next year? Ella?
I'm going to the UK to study business management and marketing. I still don't know what unis yet, but I know that it's definitely the UK.
You've got enough time to decide, so don't worry about it. Freya?
I'm going to be going to the UK as well, and probably be doing a bachelor's in acting.
Amazing. And Jade, what are you hoping to be doing next?
I'm hoping to study something business related in like Australia and New Zealand. So it's a bit different to like the UK, like because IBCP is more for like you can get into unis like more like easier, but like for Australia and New Zealand it's all like on case-by-case basis. So I hope I end up going to an Aussie or a New Zealand university.
Fantastic. And obviously, I'm sure you will wish the three of them the best of luck. Thank you so much for your time and answering my questions. And I will now hand back to Ms. Devine-Costa. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That's great. So you've had a good kind of introduction to sort of three of the pathways so far, the DP, the CP, and our international diploma. The final pathway I just want to talk to you about is our bespoke engineering pathway. This really is for people who know that they want to do engineering, possibly go on to do something physics related at university, or something that's kind of design engineering related, but they know that in some way they're heading towards that route. This is a BTEC program, but it's a triple award, which means it's the equivalent of 3 A-levels. So all of that is done in engineering study, lots of depth, lots of maths, lots of physics, sort of complete wraparound engineering, plus all the amazing practical experience in our fantastic workshop area. We've got the CAD machine, 3D machines, we've got all the kind of traditional engineering equipment, the welding gear and so on. So it's a great hands-on experience, and Mr. Hopley, who runs the course, will tell you that it is actually a better preparation for an engineering degree in many ways, because the students on this course are actually doing what they would only normally get to do towards the end of a first year undergraduate year. So it's a great opportunity if engineering is a passion. Students will normally take IB Maths and IB Physics alongside that, usually at higher level, but sometimes one of those at standard level as well. And there is an opportunity to do some industry work placement. Obviously, the last couple of years, we've not been able to go to China to do that, but we have brought China to us, and we've done virtual work placements, and the TTI group that we work with just gives some fantastic opportunities and real world experience to our students. To give you a taste again of the programme, so Eamon and Finn at either end there have already graduated, and you can see that they've gone off to very prestigious universities in the UK. Finn is just about to start, Eamon's about to start his second year, and Natalie is one of our current students on this programme. And I think all of them will tell you, again, this played to their strengths. It was absolutely what they wanted to do. They wanted to spend their time focusing on engineering. And as a result, certainly in Eamon and Finn's case, have come out with some great results and a great university placement at the end of it. It is engineering dominated, so 15 lessons a cycle, so you really do have to love it. And then your maths and your physics alongside that with the diploma. And there is an option to do the extended project qualification, but to be honest, your time is well spent already, so that's just an add-on if people need it. But essentially, this is 3 A-level equivalent from the BTEC, and if you do maths and physics at higher level, that's a 5 A-level equivalent program. So it's a really, really hard but rewarding program if engineering is your thing. So as we've said, this is a passion. Students have got a passion for engineering. This is the TTI work experience. This is one of their manufacturing areas. It's recommended that students have got 5 A to C's, and that we've got at GCSE B's or above in the maths and the science, because obviously that's a real necessary foundation to access some of the material on this particular engineering course. But I just wanted to show you, because we've talked about lots of different pathways, and one of the questions that keeps coming through is, well, which pathway is better? And, you know, as we said right at the beginning, there is no better pathway. All of our pathways take students to university year on year on year. All of our pathways take students to universities right across the world. And you can see with this example here that we've got 3 students, Kimberly, Kai and Emily, all have ended up at university doing a business degree, a business related degree, but they came through a very different pathway. So a diploma program, a career related program and an international diploma program. All of them have ended up at the same point, but what they've done is picked a pathway that suits their learning style and that's going to maximize their chances of success. And they've had a really enjoyable, rewarding 2 years in that build up to university, and it's got them to where they want to be. So I think that's our main message really, is to really think about all the pathways on offer and not just be thinking about, oh, I need to go to this university, so I must be doing this. You actually need to think about what your strengths are. I'm just going to ask Miss Cunliffe just to jump on now, just to say hi, because this will be part of her remit as we move forward through to November. So we do have a website, and we will share all this slide deck with you tomorrow, so you can access all of this information. The website more or less up to date. It'll definitely be up to date by the end of the month. There's probably a couple of tiny little tweaks we need to make to it, but you can find out lots of information. And I've put the link to some taster lessons that will run between now and November as well. And I'll share that separately with students as well in the student bulletin. But there's an opportunity to go along and find out more about different subjects and that are specific to them. Miss Cunliffe, did you want to just talk about, you know, the support that we can give students during tutor time and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as head of year, a lot of my role is working with your child's tutor and sharing resources, guidance and information that's going to help them to navigate the next few months and the next few years. It includes as well, and something that we're really fortunate of, is the one-to-one conversation that your child has with their tutor on a Monday. And that's a great opportunity for them to sit down with their tutor, to talk about what their ideas are, to talk about what they think they might like to do, to review their current progress in school, look at which subjects they're doing really well at, and use that as guidance to help them make some decisions. So that relationship with the tutor is really important and really beneficial for the next few months. It's also something that a lot of young people do worry about, and there's an overload of information. We had a lot of this information last week during our assembly, and the poor things left a little bit more frazzled, I think, than they were going in, because now I've got all these options, I've got all these choices. And we spoke about the importance of getting as much information as possible. And I think a lot of the students that spoke today and this evening have mentioned that find out about what it is that you're interested in, find out about those courses, those universities, where might they want to go on to, and use that information to help them to make a decision. But I also told them that it's not just about university. Some students may not go on to university, so finding their passion and finding something that they're interested in and finding something that they can do well at is just as important. There's lots of different ways for them to be successful, and they just have to find the right pathway for them. The final thing that we have been doing a lot of work on is about that balance. And I know with the mention of workload, it's something that as a head of year, we're constantly dealing with as a pastoral team. How can we help our young people to develop their knowledge, to achieve within their assessments, but also look after themselves and promote their well-being? So we've got a session coming up in a few weeks for year 11, which is about reducing anxiety about the future, making decisions, and also managing expectations, which is a really great webinar that we're developing with our school health professional, with Saffron. And the final thing that I did want to say is that grades are just part of the portfolio that your young person will leave West Island with. And our year group, I'm incredibly proud of them with everything that they do outside of the classroom, the way that they support each other, the way that they have achieved and got involved in service opportunities as well. So it's the big picture. And for me, it's about supporting that holistic development as well as their grades as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jayne. That's brilliant. So I will I think I'll just leave it there for the moment. Sorry, I'm just sort of ticking off. I don't know what's happened then. And we will take some questions, I think, because I'm very, very conscious of the time. So I know Mrs. Haworth has been just collating some questions. So Claire, do you want to just jump on and then?
Helen, I think you've answered all the questions actually. There's one, thanks Madeline, that came in about the ab initio, just a bit of curiosity about that. And I think a few parents will be thinking, because it's from the beginning, is it the equivalent of a GCSE level?
So it's higher than a GCSE level. So I think with ab initio, and certainly if you speak to Mr. Diaz or any of the team, they will tell you that that first kind of half term is very intense in ab initio, because you've got to cover an awful lot of the basic grammar that normally, I think Matisse alluded to this, normally you'd maybe cover over a couple of years at the very beginning of learning a language. You've really got to kind of cram that in right at the beginning to give you the foundations. So actually it's quite an accelerated language learning program, and the level that you are expected to get to by the end of the 2 years is above GCSE level for certain. So it's not, as Matisse said, it's not an easy option. It's quite an intense language option. But what it does do is give you an opportunity to pick up another language. And, you know, going back to that idea of global citizens, I think sometimes students choose it because they do want to have more than one language that they can use, perhaps conversationally, if not, you know, academic written, but at least be able to kind of work in two working languages. So I would say that's the level above GCSE, and definitely quite an intense learning curve to get you up to that level.
As I'm talking, a couple of questions have come in, and thank you parents, with some fantastic questions this evening. Is this CP for students who really know what they want to do in uni? You know, how would you advise with that?
So it can, it's a really good question. It can be. So I think like we heard from one of the girls that about it was very tailored towards performing arts, and she'd made that program very performing arts focused. But we get plenty of students who select quite a breadth of subjects. So they might have business as their BTEC element of the CP, and then they might have, you know, English alongside it because they really enjoy English, or they might have a science alongside it because they really enjoy science. And it kind of opens up a whole range of options when you go to university, because of course your BTEC is worth 2 A levels, but if you then take 2 higher level subjects, that's another 2 A level equivalent. So potentially you're applying to university with the equivalence of 4 A levels. And just like you would with an A level system, you know, you might have geography, English and maths. Well, you know, they're very different, and then you choose to specialize in whichever subject. So the answer is it can be specialist if that's what you want it to be, but it can also be very broad if, like a lot of our students, you don't know what you want to do, and that's also fine. You know, we just support them through the process with the higher education team to help them kind of refine their choices as they go.
I think quick question to answer. If you decide to do two sciences, can one be at a higher level and the other at standard level?
It can, in theory, but I would be questioning why you then need to do two sciences, because if you're coming saying my university course demands two sciences, then they're probably going to want two higher levels. So it would be unusual to have a HL and an SL science. Not impossible, but it would be unusual, because as both the gentlemen at the beginning mentioned, the reason they had picked their particular combination was because they knew their university course was going to be essentially dependent on those options later on. So that's the kind of conversation that we will have. And you know, the HE team will meet individually with every year 11 student this term and have an initial conversation between now and November about, you know, what they're thinking and that kind of stuff. We have another meeting in March, kind of once people have done some mock exams, maybe got a bit of a feel for what that feels like. Opinions change, and that's okay, you can change your mind, but again, we have another conversation in March with the G&A team and the higher education team and the individual student as well, and then we just revisit it again moving through the summer and once the students kind of are approaching the start of year 12. So we're always kind of reviewing that process and what they're choosing and why they might be choosing it. And we definitely have students at the start of year 12 who change their minds. I think a couple of our students tonight mentioned. One of our students, sure, changed pathway. I know we had a long conversation about it. Unfortunately, she left my geography lesson. But it does happen, and that's fine. All we say is that, you know, really by the end of September of year 12, we want you to be settled in what you've chosen, because after that, it means a lot of catch up. So it's better to kind of make those changes earlier rather than later.
I think, Helen, you've answered Prashank's question there, and Wilson.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I thought it was
so Wilson, there's your answer about changing subject. And Prashank, Helen gave you a good overview of careers. And outside of the times that children can see the careers team, where we schedule times, they can always pop in and see the higher education team outside of those times that we've put in. So that's that. And we have had parents ask us questions tonight about, you know, do certain universities accept BTEC and IBCP? And the advice that we're giving is, you know, come and speak to our higher education team, have a chat with them, and they're fantastic at really liaising with you in the university. Anything else on that, Helen, with that?
Yeah, and I think just for the IBCP in particular, if you look up universities, they sometimes won't list that as a requirement. So sometimes it'll be clear what IB diploma score they want or what BTEC grades they want. But with the IBCP, because it's a very bespoke program and different institutions offer different career related programs, it's not possible for universities to say, with the IBCP, we want X amount. So for that, they will definitely do a very bespoke offering, and they will be saying, you know, we want a student to get a distinction merit in their BTEC, and we want them to get 5-4 in their higher levels. So they will give a really, really specific offering. And that's what Jade was alluding to as well. Sort of Australia in the past, if you look at an Australian university on their website, it might say we don't accept anything, but every single university, every single time one of our IBCP students has applied to Australia, they have gotten in. So you also kind of have to do that little bit of legwork, which Mr. Collins mentioned about just digging around, working with the HE team, and just kind of doing your research to kind of find the schools that are right for you.
Yeah, good advice. And French ab initio, if you did French in year 7 and 8, you can take. So just a quick answer to that one, Nicholas. And I think That is it. Any other questions we've got, I think, will be individually answered. I know Jayne Cunliffe talked about philosophy, self-taught courses, Helen.
So
philosophy is a self-taught?
No, you can only do self-taught language. So the only subject that can be self-taught is the first language. So again, if you're a native speaker of French or German or something like that, and you want to do French literature, German literature. Philosophy is on there. I know we had this as a question. We just didn't have enough people to run the course this year, but hopefully this time we will. And with all of our courses, we can only run them if we have enough students that put them down. So, you know, we try our best, but we need, you know, at least probably 5 students on a course to make it viable to run. So unfortunately, sometimes once the initial requests come in from students in November, that's when we look at what feasibly we can run and not run, and then we'll get back in touch with anybody whose initial choices we're not going to be able to meet. But we do our best. And again, if you want to do philosophy, I think, you know, be talking about that with Mrs. Rule, talking about that with your friends. Philosophy is a great course for the medics to do, actually. So a lot of our medics obviously will need to do the 2 sciences, chemistry and biology, but as a humanity, philosophy is a great humanity because you have to do all the ethics in medicine, and a lot of your medical applications will have an interview, and a lot of that is ethics based, and having that philosophy background is a massive advantage. And just on that medical pathway, Dr. Song, if any of you out there are specifically looking at medicine, Dr. Song will run a specific webinar about that in about a month's time. We'll send out some information. She did something at the end of year 10, and she'll rerun a version of that for any interested medics that are out there.
Wow, and thank you, parents, for sticking with us.
Thank you so much. That was a long one,
but worth it. So thank you, everybody. All right, so we will share out all the information, and drop us a line if you've got any more questions. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye, everyone.